Every summer, the United Nations updates its estimate of how many people are currently displaced in the world today. The recent update as of this summer is 80 million. Technically 79.5, but you round it up to 80 million. 80 million people displaced in the world today. The number does not count all migration in the world, but it counts all people who've been forced to migrate. Okay, usually because of conflict or economic destitution, and this number has been rising every year for the past several years, and we should all start asking, why is that? How did we get to this point where we're at the largest global migration crisis in world history? The only other migration crisis that could beat it out numbers wise would be the Bering Strait. No one really has numbers from back then. If you don't know what the Bering Strait is, go look it up. Bering Strait. 80 million people. Numbers kept rising every year. We need to put that in perspective, okay? World War II, so many atrocities happened during that time. People called it the war to end all wars. And afterwards, after the war finally came to a conclusion in the aftermath of that global conflict, there were 25 million displaced persons in the world. That's the estimate. So 25 million, and today we have more than twice that amount in the world. And I don't think as a world we're taking seriously what we're doing wrong, because that has to mean we're doing something wrong if we have this many displaced persons and the number keeps growing every year. When I see most reporting or most media conversations on migration issues, it's almost always a really weird conversation. They'll get someone who seems to be more of like a migration advocate, and they'll get someone else who is against immigrants, and they'll make them debate or something. And these conversations you see in the media, they almost never are really giving you the accurate portrayal of what's actually happening in the world. So what I tell people is that when you have 80 million people displaced in the world, largest in world history, your opinion is completely irrelevant. If you say you are for migrants or against migrants, both those opinions are completely irrelevant. And that does nothing to help address the situation. Okay? You can be against migrants all you want. That does not help actually address the global crisis. The global crisis has not been going away just because people wanted it to go away. We actually have to acknowledge there's a crisis. We have to acknowledge what's causing it, and we have to start addressing the causes. We'll get to that in another video. For now, we're talking about the numbers. Likewise, those who kind of just settle for the taglines that sound nice, which are immigrants are welcome here, refugees are welcome here. Okay, those are nice sentiments, but again, if you only settle on the tagline, it doesn't help anyone address the issue about, well, how did we get to this point of 80 million people being displaced? Okay, and the problem is sometimes I've seen those taglines peddled by people who want to seem sympathetic but aren't actually ever going to do anything to help address the situation. I can think in my own area of local leaders who are guilty of that, who I've seen them use those lines, but then when it comes to actually addressing the real needs of the diverse populations of immigrants and refugees in their own community, they don't really care to listen. And if you can't listen to what the needs are, you can't actually do anything to address the reality. Right. So we need to stop settling for taglines. People think they're going to solve the issue by arguing about it based on political ideologies of the right or left. No, that's not been helping. It's go look up the numbers, the estimates from the United Nations. Look how it's been increasing every year. For the people who really are on the ground, like me, working on these issues all the time, you don't settle for easy answers. You want to start getting a little more innovative. If something wasn't working before, how do you find the new path, something that's a little more innovative that actually helps to really address the reality? Okay? Because the bottom line is we care about people. We care about, see, these aren't just migrants. They're not just people called migrant. They're people. Okay? They're people who've been displaced. And I would love for everyone not to have to suffer. And I've seen firsthand what it's like for people suffering because of these conflicts and suffering because of the journeys they've had to take. I also want a reasonable approach. What's reasonable is you see what's causing the crisis and you address the cause. Whatever is causing it, you make that stop. That's reasonable. That's a whole nother video. We'll get to that. For now, this video is about putting it in the context, the grave scale of the crisis, and it is grave. 80 million, if you just see that as a number on a page, maybe it can be hard to visualize what that really means. Let's just try to imagine all those people were all in one spot somehow. Here's how that would compare. We have the population of Germany is 83 million. The population of Congo is 86 million. So those are already some really big countries right there. Those are the 16th and 17th biggest countries in the world. Iran, 82 million. France is 65 million people. United Kingdom, 67 million people. Australia, 25 million people. You have Canada, 37 million people. Way, way smaller than the current migration crisis. As we keep going through this series of videos about the global migration crisis, the first ground rule is people need to understand that your opinion is completely irrelevant compared to 80 million people. Either globally we work together to come up with an innovative solution to this, or we don't. Don't blame the victims. Don't blame the people who have to flee. You blame the causes. What is causing all these people to have to flee? Why are there so many conflicts throughout the world on this scale that are not coming to an end anytime soon, have dragged on for too many years, causing more and more people to have to flee? Where did all this come from? We're going to start addressing those questions in the upcoming series of videos.